Speaking of other cases, you mentioned the Wade Wilson thing.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so Wade Wilson, it's on Netflix. You have not heard of this man? It's on the worst ex ever.
Yes. Did you follow this trial at all when it happened?
Okay,
I didn't really.
I didn't either. I remember seeing this man's face. He's a very scary looking man with tattoos all over his neck and his face. And I had seen this man's picture before, like on social media, but I did not know much about.
Oh,
the
you
case.
didn't?
No,
I knew about the case, but not like the. How in depth.
So there's it's very good series. It's about 4 episodes per season. I watched all 4 episodes, but this episode was the first episode was about Wade Wilson, who was this man in Florida who essentially used women and actually men to get money, to get things that he wanted. He at one point was a very handsome man. He's like 6'5". He has he's like tall and handsome with dark hair, and he was built nicely. I mean, this man was
he's a good looking guy.
I mean, now he's fucking awful with all the tattoos.
Well, and I mean, that's crazy too. I'm like, even like, hey, I'm a fan of some. I like a tattoo.
Yeah, I don't want a tattoo.
But I'm like, you do your whole face, and you got here.
No, he was a very attractive person.
Yeah.
And he knew that, and he used it to his advantage with women. Yeah. And so essentially,
in regular look, did you notice that too? No, offense.
No.
But he wasn't dating.
All the women were like a 6 or a 7, and he was like a 10.
Yes.
And then
so that kind of mindset is like he did that purposely to be like, I mean, obviously, they look up, they may
beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but if you're like being subjective, it's like, okay, they were cute, but they weren't like anything special.
So like when you have somebody who's like cute and regular, and then like someone who's really good looking, takes an interest
he could have been a model.
Yeah,
he was very hot.
Right.
Like so especially back then,
and they were so like. Well, and that's like that in your mind when it's like someone who you like think's way out of your league, like physically. Yeah. It takes an interest in you. Then it's like, I mean, that's such an ability to like manipulate and control.
So basically, long story short, because there was a lot of victims, he essentially victimized women. He would move in with them right away. Yeah. He would not leave. He would steal things from them, like use their car, just a user and an abuser. Yeah. And then when he really went psycho, he would he raped women. Yeah. He would kidnap them to get what he wanted, whatever. And then he would bounce from woman to woman, house to house, literally. I knew it was really bad when this man, I don't know, he could be bisexual, but when he started dating a dude. Yeah. That's when I'm like, oh, you just use anybody. Yes. After abusing a few women, he's all in Florida. Yeah. He's in Florida. I know. All in Florida. He actually met this.
I know everybody loves, like, Florida's great. I'm like, listen, I know it is, but there is a lot of this kind of stuff that happens
I like Fort Lauderdale, that's about it. But anyways, so he starts dating a dude. Yeah. And they were having a full-blown relationship. Yeah. He was doing everything he would do with the girl with this dude to get money and it was insane the amount of ways he used people. Mm-hmm. And to see that he ended up raping a woman, one of his girlfriends, kidnapping her, and she drove home after he got out of the car. Then about a couple hours later, it was the same day.
Yeah, she went to her mom's house.
Yeah, and then
was like all beat up and like whatever, and then went to the police.
Yep.
And then when the police
and they had this on video. We watched the video under that documentary.
Yeah. If you haven't watched this is an example. I mean, when I saw it, I had like a visceral reaction.
I was pissed
of how this detective was talking to this sexual assault victim. Yeah. I mean, at first I was because when he took her in. He's like, well, what do you mean? But, when she's like, I don't think she used the raped word.
I think she's sexually assault.
Is that what she said? Yeah, she said, but he's like, well, explain it. And like, I was like, ooh. And so that was my first like indicator. I'm like, oh, this guy knows good. And then he brings in Wade Wilson. So at this point, basically, she has accused him. She's been with him for a while. There's a long sort of story. He like uses and abuses these people, but like they go back, there's back and forth, all that kind of stuff. And he basically kidnapped her in the car, put her in the back seat, is cutting her clothes. She's got bruises on her, and then he assaults her, right? And so that's what you have as a report as a detective. And he brings this guy in, and I will say he, like, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, looks all buttoned up and is like, I think he had like khaki shorts. He looked, he looked presentable. So like, this is a guy who knows which way to go, depending on who he's in front of. And the detective basically, the way he was talking, I said to my husband, we were watching it together, I go, he's doing this as like a ruse, right? I go, hey, this can't be for real.
I was like, he's gonna turn. My boyfriend and I were watching, and I'm like, is he like trying to be buddy with him?
That's what I thought.
And then when I realized after like a minute or two, like he really believed him. He didn't get any DNA, right?
No, he didn't do anything, and he basically was like, yeah, I know how this goes, and like just was like chummy with just straight up, just basically straight up didn't believe the victim.
Yep.
And sided with the guy.
Yeah.
And it was like I had like a physical reaction to that
pissed.
because that's the kind of stuff that like why women don't come forward, why we have so many, you know what I mean? So then when people say, see, it's like this back and forth between, oh, okay, but then when you do go forward, you come straight to the police and they don't believe you and they don't take out charges. And she in the documentary said, because so then he's released, right? Then he goes to the gay guy.
He goes to the gay guy for about 6 months. No, the thing about these relationships, they were short.
Fast,
they were like these are like these women were doing all the shit for him, and it had been like they met in September of 2018 or whatever year it was, and then like by January he kidnapped and raped her. I'm like, it was 4 months.
Yes.
Like it was to think
they
about how
fast.
Everything was fast, and with the gay guy it might have been like maybe 4 months, 3 or 4 months, and they were living together.
And they met at a carnival. He was the ride operator, and then Wade Wilson was a pizza guy. So I mean, we're also talking about like a different, it's a certain kind of people who are in situations where you might easily take advantage of them. You know what I mean?
So like, they ended up doing hard drugs, whatever drug it was, and it made him attack him. And he goes all bloody. Yeah. And so they had a full-on
he had a knife.
And so basically, after it happened, they were just done. Like, they had this big fight. He never called the police, the gay guy. Never called the police. Yeah. And they were kind of done. And then he went back to sleuthing around South Florida. Yeah. And finding women and whatever. And it's actually strange to me that he murdered 2 women within, like, a couple hours of each other. But none that he had relationships with. So he could have killed easily the people that he was with, but he ended up killing 2 random women just on a killing spree. Yeah. So basically, when he does drugs, which is not okay, when he would do drugs, he would want to kill. Yeah. So he went to a club one night in South Florida, met 2 women. One, they were friends. One went off home. The other one went back to the house with them. I don't know if they hooked up or not, but he just murdered her. Yeah. Then he left, took her car. Yeah. And then he found some woman walking on the side of the road. She was a mother. She was engaged. Her kids were like older. Like she was an older woman. And he asked for directions or something.
Yeah, to the school.
The school? Yeah. I don't know why. They did say she got in the car.
Well, he said that.
I don't know. His story was. Yeah. So then he killed her. Yeah. Drove to some desolate side part of the road, killed her, and then raped her after.
Well, she wasn't. He strangled her. She wasn't dead when they went.
He ran over her.
And he ran over her.
And then he sexually assaulted her.
I mean, so we're talking about like sickos.
But this all would have been avoided if that detective took her seriously about a year before. It was only about a year before.
Yes. Like that's what I mean. It's like it frustrates me to no end to be like, but there's 2 lives that are gone. Yeah. Like 2 women are not on this earth anymore. When if you kidnap and you attack and you rape somebody, you get a real sentence for that. Yeah. So like he would have been in jail.
He would have been in jail.
It's not like, oh, he slapped me. Yeah. And he'd be on probation. Like he would have been in jail.
And at the time he was dating another woman down in that area. Yeah. They were serious. She owned a spa. And he showed up to the spa in a random car
with the first girl that he murdered's car.
And that's how it all kind of came together.
And multiple people call the police because he's hitting her in the parking lot.
Yeah. He was outwardly abusing this one. Yeah. It was just, and his father, who seemed like a very nice man, actually convinced him to confess and tell them where the bodies were. Yeah. And it was weird when he talked to his dad was able to get a human reaction out of him. And his dad seemed like a very lovely man. Yes. His dad was heartbroken and disgusted.
Well, and he said too, when he testified later at the trial, that he was 14 when Wade's mother got pregnant, and the mother was 13. Yeah, and they gave him up for adoption.
It was his biological dad. Yeah,
so, I mean, it's probably someone
it wasn't someone that raised him. No, in a sense,
but they had reconnected. Yeah, probably once he was 18, after the adoption rules and whatnot, and in the calls, because so he basically, after when the call comes in for the girl in the parking lot that he's hitting, then he gets stopped by the police, but then he takes off, right? And he ends up at some random place where the couple who had lived there had just left like the day before or something.
Yeah, he just squatted.
Yeah, and they probably would have died as well if not.
He wasn't killing. He wasn't like he was killing just romantic partner. Well, none of them were. He wanted to
kill
for
fun.
He just wanted to kill. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was interesting that all his romantic partners, none of them ended up dying.
Right.
Because he just wanted to kill.
Right.
It was weird.
He would have been like because he said so. So what happens is he calls his dad basically for help, and the dad's like, "Yeah, I'll send an Uber."
Tell me
and
you
then
are,
he sends the police there, and then he gets arrested. And then even when they're on the jail call, he's like, you know, what do you think about the fact that like I called? And he's like, you know, I don't know why you did that. And it's really interesting. It's like almost like you can see trauma like live and in action, because he's like, you know, I was just so disappointed. Like I can't believe you did this. And like, you know, that mom, you know, her son's crying on the news. Like you got to do, you know, and I found that to be really powerful and really like brave for the dad to be like, you know, this kid's probably I had a kid when I was 14 and he's fucked up because of, you know, he's probably psycho anyway, but he's obviously got history, and the father's able to be like, I'm going to be the person who like tells him, you have to do this. And he listened to him.
He really did. He did it.
I mean, but he did also want a burger and fries.
Yeah. But then the thing is, too, now he still
I just want a burger and fries, and I'll tell you.
Because he's 6'5", and handsome, but honestly, he's gross now that like that he's a fucking murderer, but that his tattoos all over his face. Of course, he has women that are like fawning over him,
like crazy, crazy.
I will never understand the psychological fucked upness of a woman that is attracted to a man that has on paper with proof physically harmed anybody to that extent. Never mind raped and killed women.
No, I mean, this is like, listen, I understand like this. You know, I grew up around a lot of criminal elements, and like, so I understand there's attraction to like some certain things, but it's different with this. Kidnapping, raping, and driving over a woman for fun, like that. That's not like, oh, I don't know.
Oh, he stole. You know, he robbed a bank for some extra cash. Right. Like, okay. Bonnie and Clyde. Like, dude, like if it's I always say a victimless crime. Like, obviously, robbing a bank's bad, right? These things are bad. But like, if you physically hurt somebody, to me, that's different. Different.
Yeah,
it's different. Like,
it's different.
If you do something that's fucked up, like, okay, right. Everyone, you like whatever. There's so many crimes you can do that don't physically hurt anybody.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's so many things you can go to jail for that don't include you being violent.
And like, just how can you as a woman know like what someone did to another woman and be like
turned on?
Oh yeah,
it's fucking weird.
Like he's like, oh, how you looking, baby, today? Oh, how you? I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know. But I mean, thankfully, that's the kind of guy who's gonna be away forever.
Yeah, but I still can't go back to I can't stop going back to the fact that he literally could have been in jail at that time.
And so you know what I was thinking about?
I think the cop got suspended
only for like 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks, but then he's still working.
Yes.
He got suspended for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they did say he didn't do a thorough investigation, and that. So two things I was thinking about, because that was 2000. I think it was either 2018 or 2019 that those allegations. Yeah. Like, so my first thought was, what's the statute of limitations down there? They should charge him and get it. Yeah. He should be held responsible for that. Like, that's another victim. Like, when people say, like, oh, well, he's already doing this. No. Everybody should have their day in court, especially victims of violence like that. You know what I mean? And that's another mechanism. Like, if anything ever happened with those cases and they got overturned or whatever, it's like, okay, but we've got this conviction here and he's doing a sentence here. So you know what I mean? It just like ensures he stays in jail. And then the other thing, that the estates of the two women killed, they should sue that county.
Okay, that's funny that you say this, because you and I were just talking today about how Alex Murdaugh, who is a South Carolina man, who, if you've seen I've seen all the documentaries on Netflix, that allegedly killed his son and wife. Yeah. And it was a very small county. The whole family was like lawyers, and they had money, and they had a lot of power in that county. And the son that ended up being killed allegedly by his father, also a couple years before that was in a boating accident where he killed an innocent woman. His kids were spoiled, out of control brats, really, that used their parents' money and power to do whatever the fuck they wanted. His son was an alcoholic at like 8, at like 17. It was a mess. So they try to blame one of the kids, someone in those victims from that crime that could have murdered them. But it seemed to all point back to the dad being the one. The dad was a pillhead. He was
crazy in debt.
In so much debt. He was not a good guy. And he was convicted of murdering both of them. And then he was also pled guilty to dozens of financial crimes, both federally and in the state of South Carolina, that put him in jail for 27 years and 40 years concurrently on top of the 2 murder charges. And now it was overturned today for the murder charges, saying that there was too much influence from the prosecutor.
No, from the county clerk.
The county clerk on the jurors.
Making statements to jurors.
Making statements. And now they're going to give him a new trial for those murders. And I was saying to you, well, he's never going to get out anyways. Who gives a shit? Because he's 57 years old and he has almost 40 years federally, which is you do both all your time. Like, why bother? And that's what my thing was. And you were saying, because, well, they can work around things and they can try to get him, reduce sentences on the money things. And then you really want the murder charges to stick. Right.
So, like, as a defense attorney, what you'd be thinking in that kind of case is, like, so it depends on, sort of... There's multiple sort of steps to it. It's like, are we trying to get you ultimately back out? Is there a world where we could get you back out? And like you said, the state charges, federal charges, in addition, relative to the financial crimes, in addition to the state ones. But like, from a defense perspective, if you could somehow, so that's going to get retried, right? The murder charges. If you could negotiate with the DA's office, like maybe do some sort of like plea down to, a lesser amount of time, right? And then as the lawyers, you could try to attack in some way an appeal on the state charges, right? Relative to the financial crime. So you're like, okay, if we've sort of won and see if we can get it down on the murder, now let's see what we can do on the financial stuff. And then what I was saying was, I wouldn't be surprised if like somebody like this would go to Donald Trump and the administration and like ask to be pardoned because he's pardoning a ton of people. And not most, but a lot of the pardons that have been issued by the Trump administration are relative to financial crimes. So like he has an inclination to approve crimes that are like wealthy people crimes, you know what I mean? That like technically aren't like, harming anyone. So if you could get him, so like say, I don't know how old he is, but it's like, if you could figure out, say if you're like,
he's 57.
Well, so it's like, maybe could we do like, if he agreed to 15 years on the murder and then try to get the state down and then, I mean, listen, it's like swing and you're likely to miss. But doesn't mean that those kind of conversations and like strategies aren't happening. You know what I mean? Or in the alternative, I mean, most likely the most likely outcome is that he's never going to get out of jail. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean there's not like a strategy to try. You know what I mean?
But I was kind of like, what? Like this is a waste of time and resources. And then you were saying, well, no, they have to do X, Y, and Z.
And from the court's perspective, and from a constitutional perspective, and protecting defendants' rights, if the county clerk was making statements, and I don't know because I did not follow, I didn't read the appeal, I didn't anything like that. But so the allegations are that what the Supreme Court basically said was based on the court clerk's conduct, he didn't get a fair trial. And that's because you can have no interaction with the jury. The prosecutor, the defendant, the clerk, the probation officer, like you cannot be commenting on anything. You cannot be, you can't have any substantive interaction. So if the clerk, who's alleged to have said to the jurors, like, pay attention to his body language.
When was she saying it to them?
During the trial.
Okay.
And she also wrote a book about it. And so she was like taking notes in like a different way. So I think, I think from a legal perspective, you go like, yeah, well, if the jurors say they heard it and, they kind of took it into account, then that is basically kind of like tampering with the jury. And then the defendant does have a right to another jury because they didn't technically get a fair shot at it. Right. So, I mean, the law is very technical. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so even if it's like goes completely counter to what we think is like the right thing, it's like, yeah, but if you can, people get off in technicalities
all the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like little tiny, you know what I mean? Like some courts will say like, you didn't put that in 12-point font. No joke. They'll reject your brief.
Yeah,
you know what
that's
I mean?
crazy.
If you don't do the right margin sizes, like the law is hyper technical. Right. So, you know, you can't have a clerk. If she really did say that stuff, which I imagine if the Supreme Court is saying we have found that she did, there must have been significant evidence to show that. So we'll see.
I have to bring this up today.
Okay.
Okay, Spencer Pratt.